Hi, Terry Mathis here, one of the international trainers for Monster Cable, here to tell you a little bit about our tech tour room we have here at CEDIA in Denver this year. The reason we did this is because we wanted to educate everybody that not all high definition is the same, and at the same time, not all HDMI cables are the same as well. So the way we're actually going to do that, we have a machine here that actually can change the different bandwidths that go through the cable. I can actually now change this and make it be whatever I want it to be, because obviously there's different levels of resolution, there's different levels of color, as well as different levels of smooth video. So let's take a look at one of this banner I have up here. Here's I can make this machine do 720p, 8-bit color, or even 60 hertz. Or I can make it do all the way to 1440p, 12-bit, or 60 hertz. And take a look at these gigabits per second. What kind of major bandwidth has to go through these cables? We can go all the way to 14.9 or even down as low as 2.23. So the whole idea of this is that we got to make sure that cables that are made out there, they can still pass that. So we have a way of actually testing them here today. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of these cables. I have one of my engineers here from Monster Cable is going to hook up one of these cables for us, and this is what I call a wannabe Monster. This is kind of like one of those brand X cables that are out there that customer maybe can find somewhere, an installer maybe found somewhere. And this one has a nice thick cable there. It has a nice ferrite core, even a nice connector on the end of it. So let's just see how this thing actually performs at 10 meters at standard speed, which is 720p, 8-bit color, and 60 hertz. So we're going to run this through the machine, and you're going to actually see an eye pattern test. And on this eye pattern test, what you're going to be looking for is the eye being clear in the center, because in that eye, you want to have your zeros at the bottom, the ones at the top, and this is the transition point between zeros and ones. And if I can keep that nice and clear away from that eye in the center, I get the best picture quality. So it's kind of the reverse of playing darts. You don't want to hit the bullseye in the center. You actually want to stay outside of that bullseye. So let's take a look on the screen on this first cable that we actually just tested, and you'll see right on the screen here that we actually have a nice eye right in the center. Now, this thing is actually $400, this cable that we just tested. It better pass at 720p at $400 at 1080p. So in this case at 10 meters. So let's take a look at now that we want to move this to the next level. Let's kind of paint a picture for you. How about this customer, the installer, put this in your house, and they ran these cables through the wall and got your cable to look great, look beautiful in high definition. But now you want to get a Blu-ray DVD player. And that Blu-ray is going to run at 1080p, 8-bit, 60 hertz. So let's take a look at what this thing will do at 4.95 gigabits per second and see how it actually performs. And as we just ran that through the machine, you can see did not pass the test. Actually failed. Actually, you can see that it's just closing in quite a bit. The eye is starting to close in. And look how much digital jitter is on those little lines on that bit waveform. It's not going to perform very well. So in this case, it actually did fail. Now, obviously, this guy didn't do the job, so we need to find someone that can do the job. So obviously, that would be Monster Cable. We're now going to grab a Monster Cable and hook this up to the same system and see how we actually perform. Not at standard speed. We know we can do that. We're going to go ahead and keep it at high speed. So here's the Monster 10-meter cable. We're going to hook this up and see what happens as we do this. By the way, these machines are actually measuring all kinds of different electrical parameters, from inch-per skew, attenuation, impedance, all different things that are summed up to come up with this final eye pattern that we just saw here earlier. And this is not something Monster just does. The whole industry tests their cables by using this eye pattern test. So let's see how Monster actually performs. We're now going to run it at high speed at 4.95 gigabits per second and pass with flying colors. No problem there. So you can actually see on this case the bit waveform is very thin. We have room to grow. Matter of fact, this 10-meter cable will go all the way to ultra high speed, which is greater than 10.2 gigabits per second. So the really thing I want to make sure that installers, if you're watching this, is make sure your customers don't cheap out on the cables that you're installing. Because what happens if that cable doesn't pass? Well, all of a sudden now you get sparkles on your screen. The customer may think it's a television. It's not the television at all. It's actually the cable. So now what do you have to do as an installer? You got to pull that cable out of the wall, install it all over again. So make sure you install Monster cable and the best cables that we have so the customer gets the best performance. Now, it's one thing to actually see this on a screen, but how does this look like actually on a display, on a picture quality, using Blu-ray DVD players? So we're now going to try this. My engineer is going to bring this over now, and we're going to see how this actually performs right on the screen. What we're going to test first is a 4-meter Brand X cable that, again, you can find anywhere out there. We're going to hook this up to a PlayStation 3 that's actually hooked to 1080i. Now, 1080i is representing standard speed, as we just mentioned earlier, at 2.23 gigabits per second. And we have some cables, as you saw earlier, did pass that kind of information. So let's see what happens when we hook this up and try to get 1080i on this particular product. So as you can see on the screen here, obviously it looks really good, and the actual resolution is set at 1080i. But the customer is really happy, right? Well, maybe your neighbor came over. Maybe somebody else who knows a little more techie about this happened to see that 1080i on the screen and says, wait a minute, you have a product, a source that will do 1080p. You have a television that will actually do 1080p. You have Blu-ray movies that are actually encoded in 1080p. You should be watching this in 1080p. Didn't know that. So now the customer actually goes to his machine now, and we go now to our PlayStation 3 that's already resolution is set at 1080p. Let's see what happens when we change this over to the PlayStation 3 at that level of resolution. That same 4-meter basic cable. Take a look now at 1080p. Look what happens now to the picture quality on this one. Look at all the pixel dropouts and all the sparkles that are actually on the screen. That's not good. So the whole point of this is that the customer now is very confused. They don't know what happened. Why is this happening to me? Maybe something's wrong with my television. There's nothing wrong. It's just the cable can't pass the bandwidth. So let's go ahead and hook up that. Remember that 10-meter cable that Monster passed earlier on high speed? Let's go ahead and hook that 10-meter cable up to the PlayStation 3 at 1080p. Now remember, length matters on this as well. We've actually just increased this 6 more meters than that other guy who failed at 4. Let's see where we are now. 1080p. And here's a Monster cable at 10 meters passing 1080p. Beautiful picture right there. So that's why we got to make sure our customers understand that when we get into cables do obviously make a difference, but at the same time, there's different levels of high definition, and customers didn't understand that. One thing that Monster does offer to our customers is that as time moves on, and as we continue to increase technology, 2160p, 14-bit color, 240 hertz, as all this technology increases, we need cables to pass it. That's why we have our best cables that Monster offers to our customers. We offer a Cable for Life feature. Now, on that Cable for Life feature, what that means is, let's just fast forward 2 years from now, and we have 2160p products. If Monster can't even pass that, we got sparkles, even on our best cables that Monster Cable has, Monster will replace that cable for that customer for free. So it's literally the last cable that they'll ever have to buy. So with that, hopefully you learned a little bit from Monster Cable today here in our Tech Tour room here at CEDIA. And we'd be glad to answer any questions you have. You go to our website at monstercable.com. We have a lot of this information right there for you. Thank you and good selling.